Last December, MND published its fourth Town Council Management Report, or what we call TCMR. As you know, this is a regular report which sets out the performance of town councils in key areas like the state of cleanliness, maintenance of estates, management of S&CC arrears, and also the standard of corporate governance. Among other observations, the fourth TCMR noted that the Aljunied Aokang Town Council had yet to submit their auditor's management letter. This was material to the assessment of the corporate governance indicator. In response, the AH Town Council explained that completion of its audit had been delayed because AIM, which is Action Information Management Private Limited, had terminated the Town Council Management System, or TCMS, with effect from 1st of August 2011, making it necessary for AH Town Council to develop its own software within only 2 months. This led to an exchange of statements between AH Town Council, AIM, and Mayor Teo Ho Pin, who is the chairman of PAP's Town Council's Coordinating Committee. Questions were raised on the circumstances surrounding the termination of the TCMS for AH Town Council in 2011 and the sale of the TCMS software to AIM in 2010. There were questions about possible conflict of interest in AIM, a PAP-owned company, contracting with the town councils which were run by PAP MPs. In the interest of transparency and maintaining trust in the system, PM ordered MND to review the AIM transaction thoroughly. MND was also to make observations on the nature of the town councils and how they had been run with a view to improving the current framework. MND was given the task as it administers the Town Councils Act and regulates the town councils. MND has a duty to ensure that public funds are safeguarded at all times and that residents' interests are not compromised. Permanent Secretary MND, Mr. Benny Lim, took charge of this task. He set up a 7-person review team led by Mr. Tay Kim Po. Mr. Tay is Deputy Secretary in MND and also formerly CEO of HDB. He has rich experience in public housing and especially town council matters. Madam, I noticed that PERMSEC and Deputy Secretary of MND and one of their review team members are in the visitors gallery this afternoon. The review team reported to the PERMSEC directly. I gave them a completely free hand in carrying out their task. They interviewed all interested parties, probed their records, sought views from relevant experts, and had the full cooperation of all the town councils. They did not report back to the Prime Minister or myself until they had completed their work. On April 30th, PERMSEC MND submitted the review report to PM with a copy to me. On May the 3rd, the report was released to the public and has also been circulated to members as a miscellaneous paper. PM has accepted the review team's findings and recommendations. He asked me to deliver a statement on this subject to Parliament. I would then move a motion under Standing Order 44 that the matter be considered by Parliament so that MPs can ask questions and we can have a full debate. The MND report covers 3 parts. A, the 2010 AIM transaction. B, the party political nature of town councils. And C, the need for a review of the town councils. First, the 2010 AIM transaction. As members have seen the report, I will not dwell on the details. Basically, the team reviewed all the facts of the 2010 AIM transaction. Its findings were summarized in paragraph 4 of PERMSEC MND's letter to PM of April 30th. Let me quote the highlighted sentences in this letter. I quote, A, there was no pecuniary or material interest by any Town Council member in AIM or in the contract awarded to AIM in 2010. B, the PAP Town Councils complied with the open tender process under the Town Councils Act and TCFR, Town Council's financial rules. C, the acceptance of a single bid for award is permissible under the TCFR as long as it satisfies the tender requirements and evaluation criteria. D, AIM did not make a profit from the TCMS transaction in 2010. Its directors were not paid any fees, and it charged only a fee to cover its operational costs. E, there was no misuse or loss of public monies in the transaction. F, in the light of the above findings, the team concluded that the AIM transaction in 2010 has complied with the Town Councils Act and the Town Council's financial rules, unquote. The review team also examined the circumstances surrounding the termination of the TCMS for AH Town Council in 2011. They interviewed both parties, examined the communications between AH Town Council and AIM. They established the chronology of the exchanges. The chronology ends with AIM agreeing with AH Town Council's request to extend the use of the TCMS to September the 9th, 2011. The review team states that AH Town Council sent a letter first on June the 10th, 2011, asking for termination of the TCMS, and further states that there appears to be a different understanding of the execution of the termination clause in 2011 by both parties. Madam, the MND review report speaks for itself, and I'm sure the review team will be prepared to defend their findings anytime. Second, the party political nature of town councils. Paragraphs 3 to 7 of the main review report provides very useful background on why Parliament originally set up town councils in 1989 and on the strategic intent behind the Town Councils Act. Then MND Minister Mr. S. Dhanambalan took the bill through the House in June 1988. Then 1 DPM Goh Chok Tong set out clearly the purpose of forming town councils. I advise members to read the Hansard records for a thorough understanding of this piece of legislation. Prior to 1989, all the common areas of HDB estates were maintained centrally by HDB, a government statutory board. However, Parliament decided to give MPs more authority and responsibility over the HDB estates in their constituencies in order to strengthen the nexus between the residents and the elected MPs. The strategic intent was to bring home to the MPs that how they manage and run their town council would affect their electoral fortunes at the next election. This would enhance accountability, push MPs to focus on what mattered to the residents, and in turn encourage voters to scrutinize more closely the capabilities and the track record of election candidates. This would ultimately benefit both the voters and the residents. In line with this objective, the MND crafted the legislation to recognize the political nature of town councils. As a review team noted, and I quote, "The intent is to give the elected MPs as much latitude as possible to run the town councils within broad and general rules laid down to ensure proper governance and safeguard public interest," unquote. In the same spirit, when administering the Act, MND has given latitude to MPs to exercise autonomy in judging how best to achieve their agenda and advance their residents' interests. For example, town councils may, as they see fit, engage those who share their political cause or are affiliated to their parties. Town councils may, as they see fit, engage those who share their political cause or are affiliated to their parties. In particular, the town councils are able to transact with persons or entities associated with political parties. And over the years, many town councils have exercised this flexibility. For example, some town councils have appointed fellow party members and unsuccessful election candidates to various salaried jobs, including as general manager. One town council waived competition, that means did not call tender, to appoint as its managing agent a company owned by party supporters. MND has not interfered with such transactions. However, while MPs have considerable leeway, the substance of each transaction must still be proper and safeguard public interest. So to recap, town councils are set up to fulfill a political purpose. Town councils are not part of the Singapore public service, and so they are not governed by civil service rules. They are governed by the Town Councils Act. What town councils can and cannot do is set out in the Town Councils Act. In the case of the PAP-run town councils, they work closely together to take advantage of economies of scale to benefit their residents. While PAP town councils operate in a decentralized manner in the spirit of the Town Councils Act, they also work together as one team, tap on one another's strength, share best practices, and where relevant, make bulk purchases together so that they can get the best terms for their town councils and therefore their residents. That is why they have a Town Councils Coordinating Committee, currently chaired by Mayor Teo Ho Pin. That is also how the IT software got standardized for their town councils. In addition, the PAP as a political party stands fully behind the MPs and their town councils. And that was why the PAP set up AIM in 1991 to ensure that residents living in PAP-run town councils would be well served. I'm sure later Mayor Teo Ho Pin can elaborate on how the PAP-run town councils work together for the benefit of their residents. The review team made observations on the process of handover of town councils from one party to another. After an election, a new team is required to take over almost immediately. And when there is a change of in political party, it is not just the MPs who change, because the other town councillors and even the town councillor employees may change too, as it is common for MPs to tap on the support of those who share their political cause to deliver their electoral promises for the town, for the estate. However, at present, the Town Councils Act does not contain adequate provisions to deal with such transitions. For example, when the Singapore Democratic Party and subsequently the Singapore People's Party ran Potong Pasir Town Council, it self-managed the town council without any managing agent. So when PAP MP Sitoe Pin was elected in Potong Pasir in 2011, he had to appoint a managing agent quickly to ensure continuity of services for residents. He persuaded EM Services to step in to provide the service at short notice and managed to achieve a successful handover. But he told me that it was a trying time for him and his team. More recently, after the Punggol East by-election, Pasir Ris Punggol Town Council had to hand over the management of Punggol East SMC to Aljunied Aokang Punggol East Town Council. Both town councils agreed to an official handover on April the 30th, 2013, but they needed to share the office space from May the 1st, as Pasir Ris Punggol Town Council needed more time to prepare its alternative office before it could move out. How to share office space from May 1st became a point of discussions. There was initial frustrations when both parties could not agree to the proposed layout for the shared office. Differences also arose over several other issues. MND officers stepped in to facilitate the handover and broker an arrangement acceptable to both parties. And eventually both sides came to a compromise on the various issues. There are clearly some lacuna in the rules dealing with handovers of town councils. We need to look into this. The review team has made some useful recommendations to institutionalize some changeover rules to minimize disruptions to critical services during a change in leadership. One is for town councils to have in place contractual provisions for automatic one-off extensions following an election when there is a change of party in charge of the town council. Another is to set a minimum notice period for termination initiated by the contractor or key appointment holders such as general managers. The town councils themselves have suggested that MND should consider extending the period of handover and play a greater role in the process. These are all useful suggestions, and MND will take them in when we update the town council's rules. Another manifestation of the autonomy exercised by MPs is the uneven way MPs manage their respective towns. Some town councils are stricter in enforcing and recovering service and SNCC charges arrears, but others take a less stringent, or shall we say more populist, approach towards such collections, but at the expense of town councils' long-term financial health and also of the interests of the majority of the residents who do pay on time. MND has significant concerns about town councils' long-term financial health. Town councils are required under the Town Councils Act to build up sinking funds, which they will eventually need to replace big-ticket items like lifts, mechanical and electrical equipment, major repairs, repainting programs. Town councils' sinking funds often run into millions of dollars while they build up, but they will all be needed in due course many years later. So most town councils find it difficult to explain to their residents why their SNCC has to go up to build up the sinking funds further, when the town council already has millions of dollars in its sinking funds. Some resort to kicking the can down the road, delaying SNCC increases which are necessary, and creating a serious problem that will emerge later when the replacements and maintenance works come due. This is clearly not sustainable. MND has also observed that town councils do not want to take on more responsibilities, especially if these carry a political cost. For example, some town councils are reluctant to enforce their own town council bylaws strictly, such as on obstruction of common corridors, even though this is a fire safety risk. Another example is a disagreement over who should clean the hawker centers. There are currently 2 cleaning teams. One contractor appointed by the Hawkers Association. They clean the tabletops. Another team by the town councils clean the floor and also the toilets. I mean, we know, we laugh about it. This division is clearly inefficient. But to consolidate the cleaning function into one will require the town councils to have to charge the storeholders a higher SNCC. And most are reluctant to do so. So these examples illustrate how political pressures on town councils can lead to town councils making suboptimal decisions and resulting in poorer outcomes for the residents. This is not a simple problem to tackle, as it is an unintended consequence of the very nature of town councils and is deep-seated in the current practice of many town councils. The MND team has thus recommended a review of the current town council's framework. And this brings me to the third part of the report, the need for a review. 24 years after the formation of town councils, it is timely to assess the achievements of the Town Councils Act. The review team found that town councils have largely fulfilled the original objectives for which they were set up. Town councils have delivered key estate services to residents in ways that conferred local flavor and met local needs. Residents enjoy far more customized services, and towns have developed their own identities in ways that HDB as a national agency could not have done. The Straits Times, May 7th, published the results of a straw poll on whether town management should return to pre-town council days. And it found that 41 out of 50 persons agreed. In other words, let's walk backwards, go back to the good old days. And it titled its article, "Residents Prefer Apolitical Agencies Poll." It quoted one resident as saying that, and I quote, "Municipal issues must be separated from political considerations so that town councils can be administered in a transparent manner, serving public interest and not party interests. After all, town councils are funded by public monies," unquote. But the same Straits Times article went on to quote several experts and most MPs as wanting to keep town councils as political entities. In the Today article published a day earlier, May the 6th, NMP Associate Professor Eugene Tan argued a view contrary to the Straits Times poll findings. He aptly summarized it in the title of his article, "Let us not centralize town council services." It was a well-argued piece against a return to status quo ante. We need to consider this long-term issue objectively and carefully. There are at least 3 areas which need to be looked at. First, town councils' duties and responsibilities vis-à-vis HDB. Second, adequacy of town councils' sinking funds and their long-term financial sustainability. And 3, handover and transition arrangements when MPs change. And may I add, such change could take place between MPs of the same party or from different parties. I have asked SMS Lee Shan to undertake the review, focusing on these three areas. And I urge all of you, MPs, NCMPs from all parties, as well as NMPs, to share your views, your ideas and insights with him in this review. Madam Speaker, 24 years after the formation of town councils, town management has been raised to a higher plane. The legislation to empower the elected MP to run the town council so that he can respond more promptly to his residents' needs and work with his voters to shape their town's identity has generally been a success. The need to create a nexus between an elected MP and his voters through his work in the town council, which has a direct bearing on the daily life of the residents, is a strategic imperative which cannot be thwarted. We should not return to status quo ante, where HDB administers estates all over Singapore and MPs have no authority or responsibility over what is done or how well things work. I am hopeful that 2 decades of actual experience in running town councils will enable us to evolve a good, practical approach. As pointed out by the review team, and I quote, how our public housing estates are managed is a very significant subject, as it impacts the value of their homes and the experience of day-to-day life for a vast majority of Singaporeans living in the HDB estates. Unquote. We owe it to them to find a good, accommodative solution going forward.